She's a best-selling author and life coach, obsessed with helping women to silence their insecurities, build healthy boundaries, and fearlessly pursue the life and career of their dreams. Join her as she provides you with strategies and real-life tips to create your best life. Welcome to Fearless Fridays with Marianne.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fearless Fridays. Today, I have an amazing guest with me, and we are going to be talking about relationships, anxiety, childhood traumas, and how all that relates to one another. So let's welcome Tami. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So tell us your name, tell us your story. Who is Tami?
My name is Tami Kiekhaefer, and I live in right outside of Denver, Colorado. I've been a psychotherapist for about 20 years now in private practice, and I work with adolescents, adults, couples, families around anxiety, depression, trauma, grief. I also became a yoga instructor a while ago. So I'll have people come into the office and roll out a mat, and I'll put together a sequence for them, just depending on what's going on with them as far as what they're struggling with.
Beautiful. So jumping right in, what is taking that long, hard look in the mirror and working towards self-improvement important?
You know, I think that any change that happens in your life has to come from you. It's not going to come. Well, you can get information from a book. You can get information from podcasts. You can get information. I think that learning and discovering new ways of thinking is priceless. But the work has to come from you. And it's oftentimes very scary for people to look in the mirror. I know I've had a hard time looking in the mirror in the past. But you've got to be able to actually look in the mirror and recognize what you can change. And when you do that, I believe you become more empowered because you take control of the things that you can control instead of waiting for someone else to fix it for you.
That is so good. So in becoming empowered, what exactly does that look like?
To me, it's a feeling. It's a feeling of we all have fears. But when you become empowered, it's almost like the fear comes along and you say, it's okay because I know how to handle it. Instead of a fear of, no, go away, or we stuff our feelings or sweep them under the rug or project them out onto other people. But I feel like being empowered allows you to take a look at yourself and know internally that you've got the tools, the strength, the ability to work through those fears and have an inner peace in your life at the same time.
So it's like inviting that fear in and having a conversation, a relationship with it, and understanding it versus just pushing it away.
Yeah, I think so often when fears come in, our first inclination is to make it go away or to fix it. I think that medicine definitely has a place and time. But I think that sometimes it's a quick fix, or sometimes people rely solely on medicine. And while I absolutely believe in medicine for to help take the edge off or to help internally what's going on chemically, at the same time, sometimes you just have to feel your feels. It's uncomfortable. But when you can do that, it also gives you a confidence that whatever's coming at you, you're going to be able to manage it and work through it.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to the individual that has not addressed their issues, but they say that they have found happiness?
I think, it depends. I think we come into this world with a kind of our own little personality. So it's a nature nurture kind of a thing. I think that we come into the world with a personality, and then based on our experiences and our support, things that we have gone through, I think that it builds that personality and enhances that. I think that there's some people who just sort of have gone through trauma and it just rolls off their back. And maybe they have found that happiness. Maybe they have been able to recognize what's happened, but they live more in the moment or in the future rather than in the past. So, it's quite possible. I think that you just have to be cautious that if it starts popping up in little ways, if you get triggered by something, if you, sometimes I think that we manage our emotions. We either internalize it or we externalize it. So if you externalize it, maybe you're judgmental, you're manipulative, you're angry, you're, whatever. And then, but if it's internalized, maybe you have a hard time sleeping, or you're sad or depressed or anxious, or maybe your immune system is compromised. So you're easily, you get sick. So the emotions go somewhere. And it's just a matter of are you managing your past? Or are you afraid of it? Has maybe avoidance become a habit? And if you're avoiding, then maybe you're telling yourself you're happy. Maybe it's the fake it till you make it. But every now and then you have a rage, or every now and then, you're having nightmares, or so I think it's just a matter of really having that that self-awareness of how am I doing given the things that I've been through in my past.
That is so good. So for the individual that keeps saying, or asking themselves, why me when it comes to relationships? They're not working, they're failing. So why are people attracted to the same type of romantic partners?
That is the basis of my book. That's the basic, I always wanted to write a book, and then I started writing. I thought, oh my God, this is really hard. So I did an online course, and then I was like, oh my gosh, the marketing is so hard. So then I went back to the book and finished it. And now I've got a book and an online course. And that is the basis of the book is, in my private practice, I talk with people about that question. Why am I attracted to the same kind of person? And why do I have all these failed relationships one after another? And it's very complex, but it's actually very simple. It's looking at understanding your family roles, how you grew up, how your attachment theory is a whole other aspect that I go into, but basically it's between 0 and 3 is where you start to develop your personality, and learn to trust the world and trust other people around you. So understanding your attachment style, personality, how you grew up, how you communicated, how you learned to handle conflict, based on, I can always tell if couples that I work with are going to make it or not, because it's how they handle conflict. That how you handle conflict has so much to do with what was role modeled to you growing up. And so I think that when you stop and look at why do I have all these, failed relationships, or why am I attracted to the same person, you ask yourself, what are you looking for? What are you compromising in yourself? Are you compromising your non-negotiables? Do you even know what your non-negotiables are? And so the premise around what I want to try to help people with is build that relationship with yourself first. Strengthen that, listen to your voice, assert yourself, understand when you're compromising, ask yourself, why am I compromising? So that you can be the most healthy person internally, so that you're available for a healthy relationship. Because I think half the time people are going out there and they're just looking for something to fill a space, or and it definitely took my own failed relationships. That's sort of how everything came along. And I was divorced, and I had 2 little kids, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get my act together. I've got to figure out, here I am doing couples counseling with people, and I've got this like dumpster fire going on in my personal life. And I think that by taking that step back, looking in the mirror, putting into action everything that I was helping other people, and I think that that's when I figured it out, and now I'm engaged and very happy, doing it very slowly, taking it our own non-traditional way. We don't live together because I've got my kids, and that's just what I've chosen. But I never would have really listened to myself if I hadn't have done the work.
I think sometimes too, especially as therapists, coaches, it's easy for us to give advice, and, easy to tell people the steps, or guide them, but it's so hard for us to take our own advice.
Yes. I would sit there doing couples counseling, and I would hear the words coming out of my mouth, and I would think, holy cow, Tami, if they even knew what was going on in your personal life, they'd probably get up and walk right out of that room.
And that's so true, because sometimes, people would just look at the external and, think that we have it all together, whether you're a coach or they're a therapist or psychiatrist. And I was like, oh, they have it all together, but people don't know. That half the time we're saying things and it's like we're in a way, talking to ourselves.
Yeah. And we all have stuff. I like to think we're perfectly imperfect.
Yes, I like that. So how does childhood imprinting and family roles influence romantic relationships?
I think I've built the premise from the theory of the family roles, where there's the hero, the mascot, the enabler, the scapegoat, and the lost child. And in the book, I go through, there's diagrams. It's basically a workbook. So people are actually filling in spaces and answering questions for themselves. But I think that, basically like the family hero is very guarded, pretty protected, doesn't like to, I'm just going to take one as an example. But they're very outwardly, they're very successful. They've got it all together. They show up, they make the family look good. And so oftentimes underneath all of that, there's pros and cons to each family role. But with a family hero, they tend to be very guarded, very, kind of surface level emotion, because underneath all of that, it's kind of scary to look at what the vulnerabilities are, and they have a tough time being vulnerable. So that person might not be attracted to a person who is, gushing emotions, and maybe that could be the enabler person. But, where they want to take a look at themselves and they want to self-explore and they want to, they have a range of emotions that might be a little intimidating, because it's kind of like, that's a little too much conflict for me. I don't really like conflict. And so each person might not feel needed to the other person, or they might feel dismissed. But you can definitely take those sides and work together if you know where that's coming from. So I think that all of those imprintings along the way kind of make you have an idea of what is okay and acceptable and what's not okay and unacceptable. And it's about reworking some of those to understand where am I coming from, and how can I communicate with my partner in a way that we're actually connecting and we're not, working against each other.
Right. So you said it's the family hero, the lost child, enabler, and mascot?
And the, you threw me off. Let's see. There's the family hero, the mascot, the enabler, the scapegoat, and the lost child. Yeah.
And all of these are in your book?
Yep. There's the workbook that comes with, and you can download it. And so, yep, on one of the pages is the family is a grid. Where am I? And so it goes over, how to define each role, what the strengths, what the weaknesses are, who they're likely to be attracted to, and if they're attracted to that person, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of that relationship, which gives them an opportunity to just have awareness. I think that anything is workable if you've got awareness. But it definitely takes, I know this, it takes two to make a relationship work, and it takes two to make a relationship not work.
That is so true. So you mentioned communication. So what is the foundation of a relationship, and why is it crucial to communicating effectively?
This is one of my favorite parts about the book and the workbook, is the foundation of a relationship. And it's another, actually, here is this foundation of a relationship. Yep. So basically what I feel is that, people come into me and want to talk about all these little fights that they have. They argue about the dishes. They argue about the laundry on the floor. They argue about who's doing more around the house or whatever. And I try to help them understand there's a foundation of a relationship. Every, relationship with a family member, a colleague, the thing that makes it different with your partner is the intimacy. But there's appreciation, respect, trust, and communication. There's 4 aspects to the foundation of a relationship. And if any of those areas are compromised, the relationship starts to crumble. And if you're in a romantic relationship, if any of those areas are compromised, then intimacy is often the first thing to go in a relationship. And it's not just the sex part; it's holding hands, it's snuggling on the couch, it's there's so many forms of intimacy. But if you think about it, if you don't feel respected, if you've lost trust, and trust doesn't just mean trust like someone's cheating on someone; it could be a trusting atmosphere, like creating a trusting environment so that you can communicate. If you don't feel appreciated, last thing you want to do is be vulnerable and be intimate with somebody. And so that's oftentimes, when people come in and they say, well, I'm just not connected. And so I look at, okay, well, what's going on in the relationship? Where's this foundational aspect? So instead of fighting about who's doing what or not doing enough chores, you might turn it into, I don't feel respected when I have to pick up your socks every day off the floor. Or I don't feel appreciated when, I've worked all day long and come home and you start barking orders at me, or whatever. Communication underneath that aspect, I believe, is a lot to do with conflict resolution, which is a whole other module and chapter. Because if you can't handle conflict, if you can't work through conflict, it just turns into all these unresolved issues, which turn into resentment. And that's a killer in a relationship.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So you mentioned your book, and I know you kind of like alluded a little bit to it. So what prompted you to write this book, and what exactly is the book about?
The book is called Preparing for the Jungle, Avoiding Snakes and Pitfalls on the Path to Healthy Love. And, I think what prompted me was really my own journey after getting divorced, after going through all of that. And also talking with my clients over and over and over with all these different people who are coming into my office about how do you find healthy relationships? How do you maintain healthy relationships? It applies if you're in a relationship already and you're just kind of feeling disconnected. If you're in a relationship and you feel like it's really on the rocks, if you're out there and you're single and you're wanting to find that relationship, but you keep finding the same type of partner every single time, that's what I talked so much with my clients about. And I thought, okay, there's got to be a systematic way, a strategy to put together from start to finish. And so I started gathering all my sticky notes together and pasting them. I've got, boards all over my house trying to, organize this stuff. And it just happened. I feel like you've got to start with the family roles. You got to know where you came from so you can know where you're going.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. So what would be 3 tips for the individual that might be listening or watching this later on, and they're in a relationship and they realize that it's an unhealthy relationship and they're ready for things to be different?
I kind of stand by, it's funny that you asked me this because I just now was writing something up last night. I stand by 3 pillars. And my 3 pillars, one is don't ever compromise your non-negotiables. Underneath not compromising becomes knowing what your inner voice is, your intuition. And I think we all have that inner voice. And it's, when your confidence tanks, you start questioning your intuition and you think, am I overthinking? Am I not? Am I reading too much into this? And, I think especially as women, our intuition is spot on. And so my first pillar is don't compromise what's important to you. Not meaning that you don't compromise in a relationship, because relationships are all about compromise. Yes. Otherwise, you're going to be lonely forever. But don't compromise your inner voice. What's important to you. That's my pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is stand up for yourself and be assertive. I think that oftentimes we hold back and hold back and hold back, and then it comes out as being very aggressive. And then we don't get listened to. And when we get in that space, people kind of look at you like, oh, you're kind of a wreck. Like, what's wrong with you? But being assertive is being very firm in what you believe in, but doing it with compassion. So being firm with what you say, but do it with compassion. You can, there's no need to be angry and mean to other people. It doesn't work. So that's my second pillar. And then the third pillar is always continue to work on yourself. Just being able and being willing to self-assess, to self-reflect. It's hard work. It's like you were saying earlier, it's a whole lot easier to, say, well, that person needs to change and my partner messed up and they're always doing this and they're all, it's like, wait, what's happening internally with me? And hold on, Izzy, stop. People are shoveling snow outside and sitting there. But yeah, I think that we're always working on something, and you go through these stages of your life, and it's important to step back and just kind of assess, like, how am I doing? Am I happy? Am I showing up as myself, as who I want to be represented as? And if not, then there's all kinds of opportunities to help make that shift, but always be willing to be humble and work on yourself.
That's so beautiful. So what's next for Tami? What's coming up for you in 2022?
Well, let's see. I've been working on this book and this course for about 2 years now, 2 or 3 years, I guess, with time just flying by. The book is on Amazon and on pre-sale right now. So April 19th, it'll be available for to purchase, but right now it's on pre-sale. And, I'm working in different areas to promote the course. And then the course is just for people who want to dig a little deeper. I do have a Facebook, it's a private group. It's called Women's Empowerment Toolkit. And for people who purchase the book or the course, that there's an option to go into a Women's Empowerment Toolkit VIP. It's for people who they want to ask some questions. They want to talk about the course. They want to, I'll go in there and do some lives and just kind of some Q&As and see how people are doing with it and what they're applying and what they need a little extra help with. So yeah, besides that, I've got my boys are 16 and 18. And so 2022 is going to be sending one off to college and being here with my husband as a junior in high school. So, yeah. And my fiance and I, we got engaged right before the pandemic. We haven't set a date. He lives about 40 minutes away from me. So between our jobs and my kids and we get together as often as we can, but we're not in a hurry to move in and get married, and we're just kind of taking it as it works for us in our lives. So I'm optimistic for 2022. I feel like, we've been through so much and there's a lot of healing to do. I think, the level of anxiety for people over the last couple of years, especially with this pandemic, is just off the charts. The trauma that we've all endured in one way or another, it's touched every single one of us. So I feel like 2022, I just feel like it's going to be a year of a lot of healing.
That is so true. That is so true. So in addition to being on Amazon and having the private Facebook group, where else can our audience connect with you and learn more about you?
Probably the best way is my website. It's healthyhealing.net. So healthyhealing.net. And you can learn more about me, but I've also got a learning resources page where there's a few freebies to sign up for about anxiety, confidence. There's a 12 steps to, it's called Kicking Anxiety's Ass. And it's a 12-step deal, but it's a paid one. I think it's $47, but there's a yoga, there's videos for each of these steps. And I've got yoga, I've got meditation, I've got handouts and tools, but but there's a couple free ones on there too. And then of course, access to the book and the course. So probably my website. I've got my email, my phone number on there. So probably the best way to learn more and reach out to me if anyone has any questions.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to capture all that in the show notes. So as we get ready to wrap up and close out, what would be a fearless tip for 2022 that anyone who is watching us or listening to us can implement this very day?
All right. I think that to summarize it, I think you've got to know your truth, speak your truth, and live your truth. I think that if you work from that premise, you're taking the best care of yourself, you're showing up the best way that you possibly can, and you're taking care of others around you.
I love that so much. Thank you, Tami, for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode. And I hope that the conversation with Tami was helpful. Make sure that you connect with her and get a copy of her book. Remember, you're a priority and you matter. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode inspiring and motivating. Don't forget to leave a comment so you can win a fabulous prize at the end of the month. You can leave a review on iTunes, or you can head over to YouTube or my Fearless Living Coach page on Facebook if you are an Android user. And as always, remember, you are fearless, you are fabulous, you are a priority, and you matter. See you next time.